My name is Sylvia Proctor. I live in Aintree, near the Grand National Course in Liverpool. And I know Ail Ryfel Byd because I lived here for nearly 4 years during the war, from maybe late 1939 to 1943, when I left to go to school when I was 5. With the war starting, my mum had, I think, a cousin named Will Roberts, and also she had an auntie Lull, who lived in a house called Dyddiad in Efailnewydd. And somehow or other, because I was so little I didn't know how it happened, but Auntie Lull from Dyddiad asked my mum and me, who I was a baby really, to go and stay with them for a while, because they were, my father worked for the electricity company, so he wasn't in the war, so he stayed at home in Liverpool, and my mum and I came over and lived with Auntie Lull, and I think it might have been Uncle Bob, but I can't be sure. And we lived with them for about 18 months. And then they or Uncle Will, who lived in number 6 Efailnewydd, got us somehow or other, got us a little cottage, number 2 Efailnewydd, and we lived there the rest of the time. And of course, somehow or other, I still remember the people next door. Well, the people I played with are Eleanor, and Helen and John, and Auntie Annie, Uncle Will, who lived in number 6. My nana lived she was ill. I think she had TB, so she wasn't allowed in the little cottage. It was so small anyway, and somehow or other, before the National Health Service, it would be, of course, had like a glass conservatory. It's on one of the little photographs I've got with me at the back of the cottage, and she kind of lived in there until she died in Bangor Hospital. But when we went home in 43, she had just died, and we took her home with us. My mum told me, and she was buried with her husband in Liverpool. My brother was born here. He was born in Bangor Hospital. Actually brought his birth certificate with me to prove I lived here. He was born in 1942. So when we went home, my brother, I believe, there were a lot of soldiers on the train when we went back to Liverpool in 43. And the funny thing about it was, my brother must have been able to say little words, and he was calling every soldier, Dad, 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 Dad. Yeah, my grandfather, who died before I was born, he died in 1936. He was a deep sea diver, and had lots to do with the sea. The family, my mum's family, had a lot to do with the sea, and he was doing a lot of the wrecks around Liverpool Bay and the rest of it, so they moved. It was easier for him to come with his family, my mum and her 2 brothers, to come up and live in Liverpool. So I don't really know where they lived before, whether the family came from Llannor, and my grandfather and my grandmother and my mother and the 2 brothers lived for a little while in the Anglesey Hotel, which is attached to Carnarvon Castle. I remember this older girl who I've got the photograph of, and I'm not sure what her name was, but I remember an Eleanor and just names like that, and somebody named Anora. I remember a carnival. I remember somebody getting me all dressed up. So, yeah. So yeah, memory's a wonderful thing, isn't it? I remember Robert John, yeah, I just knew him as John. I think he went to college or something happened with Liverpool, whether he was going out with somebody at Liverpool, but he came 2 or 3 times to our house to see my mum and me, and I still remembered him then. And when I was 21, my friend and I came back to Efailnewydd, because it's always been with me, and we had a week's holiday, staying with Auntie Annie and Uncle Will in number 6.